So today I got a good one for you guys. We're going to be going over why most contractors fail and they don't even get to stay in business that long. And you're going to be kind of surprised by what I end up going over in this video, because it's not because they aren't good at what they do. In a lot of cases, a lot of contractors are incredibly skilled. They started off, doing it, working for somebody else, eventually went off and started their own thing. And these are incredibly skilled people, but a lot of these guys, they end up failing, or their business doesn't end up surviving for very long. So we're going to be going over some of the most common reasons why most contractors fail. So you're going to want to stick around, because this one is going to be a good one. So most common reason why I see a lot of contractors fail, and especially in the clients that we work with, is the first thing is that we can really get into deeply here is they outspend themselves. We see a lot of contractors that will be doing whatever their main services that they're providing or they're selling, whether it's land clearing, excavation, site prep, outdoor living contractors as well, like pool builders. These guys, they will have some very strong months. They'll have very strong periods of the year, but then once they start to slow down again, there's a couple of problems. They don't have a predictable or consistent enough stream of income of projects coming in, and they end up spending way too much. Like, they'll have a bunch of new money and a bunch of new revenue come into the business, and then they will immediately go and deploy that capital into things like new equipment, expanding crews, when they might not even have the means or capacity to handle a lot more equipment or a lot more crews. They just take on way too much overhead, so their expenses end up outweighing what they're able to actually bring in. So I see a lot of people, a lot of contractors, they actually will outspend themselves to the point where they have to sell equipment, and nobody likes to do that. Nobody wants to lay people off, because that's a very tough thing to do, especially when you have talented people that are working for you. And nobody wants to sell their equipment or liquidate any part of their fleet at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it is kind of more just like an ego thing. You don't want to have to sell that, but a lot of people, they get into a position with their back against the wall where they have to get that cash back. And it's sad, because a lot of these guys, they're really good at what they do. They just see a very quick influx of cash come into the business. For example, I can go over a few different personal experiences that I've witnessed kind of firsthand with clients that we've worked with. For example, we were working with a guy who, first 4 months of us partnering up with him, essentially from our efforts, he was able to close $150K in new cash into his business from the opportunities, the marketing systems that we had built in place for his business. And on month 4, this is for him, and considering where he was, this was a huge thing. This was a very big deal for him, and this was a lot of new cash coming in at a rate that he had never seen before. And he immediately goes and buys new equipment. He buys 2 new excavators, or I believe it might have been an excavator and a skid steer. He goes and buys a shop and redoes all the concrete at the shop. It starts spending a ton of money, just getting in over his head, essentially. And obviously, what can I do? I mean, obviously, we can tell people, hey, you shouldn't go and spend that much money, but people are going to do it. They're going to do it at the end of the day. But long story short, what ended up happening with him was he ended up not even be able to have the budget to afford his ad spend on a month-to-month basis. The thing that was actually creating all of the opportunities and driving all of that new cash into the business in the first place, he ran out of budget. He ran out of funds to be able to fund that, and it completely bottlenecked him and just kept him in this stagnant contraction period, just when it really didn't have to. If he didn't go and spend all that money on equipment, on the shop, on redoing all of the concrete, he could have been, even at the very least, just steadily been reinvesting that back into his ad spend, back into the actual machine that was giving him all of the work in the first place. And chances are he wouldn't even have had that problem in the first place. So that was one there. There was another person that we worked with as well. Same situation. This guy was expanding very quickly over the span of, we ended up working with this guy, still are, but slightly different arrangement now, but I won't get into the details on that, just so I can get into more depth on his specific situation. He was growing really fast. We ended up running hiring campaigns for him, because he needed to bring in, he needed dump truck drivers, he needed people with CDLs, he needed more operators coming in. So that's normally a very good indicator. When we end up running hiring campaigns for any of our clients, obviously we evaluate things on their end and on our end, be like, hey, is this going to make sense? And we kind of give our 2 cents there. But ultimately, we end up running these hiring campaigns for him to start staffing out more pieces of the business. And we, at the time, were like, oh yeah, he's killing it. He's got the backlog for it. This makes a lot of sense to do to cycle up and level up to that next level, so he can start bringing in more and more revenue in to the business. Long story short, he ends up buying a $300,000 excavator with no work for it at all. He had no work lined up for this thing, and basically, according to him, he had bought the machine, the $300,000 piece of equipment, and I asked him, I was like, did you have like work lined up to like put this thing to like ready to like, get this thing to work immediately? And he was like, no, I mean, I thought I had like a bunch of projects that were going to be lined up, but every single one of them had fallen through, and now I can't even, keep this thing busy at all. So that just turned into a massive hole into his pocket, and it almost put him into a very similar situation as our other client. But long story short, it definitely ended up, hindering, his capabilities and what he could have done, with that capital. And if he wouldn't have taken on such a heavy financial burden like that in the first place, it just set him back, way too far. It is pretty unfortunate to see. So we do see that happen a lot. And most of the time when we see it, when I observe these things happening, it's because, people are, there's a very quick influx of cash coming into their business. And we tell all of our clients, like, look, I know most of you guys, like, it's word of mouth and referrals that they're relying on. This is a brand new system. What we do see, like, obviously not guaranteed this is going to happen for you or anybody else, but it has happened in the past where once we launch these campaigns, you're going to see a huge influx of new potential buyers pretty quickly. And if you're good at sales, you're probably going to end up closing like a decent amount just within your first month. So something to definitely be prepared for. And once that new cash comes in, you got to stack it. You got to stack it, because you can't just go and spend it and deploy it to a bunch of new equipment that you don't even necessarily have the work for. Normally, the backlog that we like to see our clients maintain for a certain duration of time is 6 to 8 weeks, somewhere in there, is really like the sweet spot of having a backlog of work on your calendar. If you're able to maintain that much of a backlog for 3 months at a time, normally that's when it's like, okay, there's the green light. Go ahead, let's expand the crew, let's bring on more equipment so we can trim that backlog down. So maybe it's like now only 4 weeks, 5 weeks worth of work, and then you can start to push sales even harder to get that backlog back up to a 6 to 8 week time period again, and then just keep rinsing and repeating the process over and over again. And ultimately, that's going to be the formula for scaling. So that's what we end up looking at. So yeah, I think like just being financially aware, being, super aware of like the type of backlog that you can actually handle, and then being able to actually maintain that for an extended period of time, just to show yourself like the proof of concepts there. Be like, okay, I have, a 6 to 8 week backlog worth of work. Let me do this and let me stay right here and keep consistently a 6 to 8 week backlog of work on my calendar, and then I will kind of make that investment into crews, into new equipment, so I can trim that backlog down to, like I said, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then repeat the whole process over again, go hard, push sales, and then get back up to 6 to 8 weeks of a backlog again. But again, so many people don't even get to do that. So many contractors don't even get to that point because they outspend themselves and they keep themselves in this like fight or flight state in their business constantly, where they're always like hunting for like the next deal, and like just they're basically creating a job for themselves where they're living to paycheck. And it really sucks to see, because a lot of these guys are incredibly skilled. It's just the financial responsibilities and that outlook that I think they need to have, and just keep a better eye on in their business. And a lot of these mistakes that they make can be very easily avoidable, and a lot of these guys can stay in business for much longer. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Brady. I am the co-founder of Dirt to Dollars, and we are a full-scale marketing agency and growth partner for contractors all over the United States. And we do everything for these people. We run all of their marketing systems for them. And what really makes us unique and separates us from pretty much all the competition is that we actually book on-site appointments directly onto your calendar. So all the marketing systems that we build for you that are tailored to really reach and get you in front of that ideal buyer, that very specific clientele demographic. Once we start to generate the leads from those marketing strategies that we put in place for your business, we call all of them. We do the cold calling, we do the emailing, we do the texting, we nurture your leads, we warm them up, we DQ people that are tire kickers or not qualified to work with you in the first place, and we only book the qualified ones onto your calendar and give you that chance, that real opportunity to go out and then close the deal. So obviously we're only looking to work with people who are good at what they sell, they're confident in what they can sell, and they know that the only thing stopping them and stopping you from your business from scaling right now is just bringing in more opportunities, right? We know that you're good at what you do, and you know, well, I hope you know that you're good at what you do as well, and you just need to pour a little bit of gas on the fire. So we handle everything from Facebook ads to Google ads to SEO. We build websites, AI SEO, AI manipulation is huge now too. We do that for our clients also, and we have a range of different offers. And obviously, wherever your business is at, whether you're doing $200K a year, you're doing $1 million a year, you're doing $10 million a year, you're doing $100 million a year, we have something for you to fit the infrastructure of your current operation, so we can scale you to that next level. Whatever your goals are, we align ourselves with wherever you want to be, and we do the things necessary to get you where you need to be and where you believe you could be. So if you want to see if we'd be able to help you out and help you scale your business year round too, by the way, we've worked with so many people in the dead of winter, and these guys will start up with us, and like they're blown away with the opportunities that come in. So most people are sleeping on a gold mine. Even if your area looks like this in the middle of the winter, there are still people out there that want to buy your services, and there's still deals to be closed. So you're going to want to get to them before your competition does. There's a link in the description of this video, but other than that, let's keep it rolling. Another big one that I've noticed on why contractors fail and don't end up staying in business for extended periods of time is because they get caught up inside of the business. They're never actually working on the business. They're always working within the business. And what I mean by that is these guys are like getting sucked into every single job project, and they have to be on, like they really become like their own bottleneck, where they're, they'll get a job and they have to be on that job, the entire time, where if they just had the guys to handle that job for them, they could just be continuously pushing sales and have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs going on at the same exact time. So having like that real CEO, like business owner mindset is like really important, and I think goes overlooked. There's this dream out there like, oh, to like have your own business, but then getting caught up in like the day-to-day of things and getting caught up on projects that you just don't even have to be on. So for example, obviously, like I've seen this situation play out a lot of times too, and it really just, even for people that can maintain that consistent backlog like I spoke about, and there's no problem with them closing deals or pushing new jobs in, they just don't grow. They don't grow, and that, not being able to grow is a serious threat to your business's longevity, and I think it needs to be taken into consideration very seriously. And I just think this entire point is very overlooked by a lot of different contractor business owners. Like, you and I both know, like, I see it like wherever I'm at, and I'm sure like wherever you're at in your area too, there's always that one guy, you always see that one business owner, that other contractor in your area that's like driving around in a Porsche and just seems to like pull up to like job sites, check in, and then leave. And then you see him on like the other side of town on like another project, doing the exact same thing and just really bopping around. But you got to think about how that guy actually got there. That guy understood that he had to delegate certain things. So he understood that him, being, essentially the decision maker and being the person who has to be at every single project to complete it just isn't going to be scalable, and it's just going to keep him stuck and in a place where growth is going to be very, very hard to experience. So he knew he had to delegate, he had to get more guys, he had to get the equipment for those guys, he had to bring in the right people, and it's normally a personnel thing, just bringing in the right type of players, the A players at that, to come in, replace him, let him step back, so then he can just focus on sales and keeping more of those crews busy, having more of his equipment out on different job sites, and that's where his revenue really untaps. He starts to crush his competitors, and he starts to have a really tight grip on his respective market. So that thing is, I guess that point is very important to keep in mind as well. And again, just something else I see go very, very overlooked So many guys, they just think like, oh, I have to be there. Like, I don't trust my guys like be on their own, or I don't trust them like with my equipment. Well, if you don't trust them with your equipment, then you have the wrong people working for you in the first place. You need to be able to step away, and you need to be able to bring in the right type of people that obviously you can trust and you know are going to be able to do a good job. That's the definition of an A player anyway, that I don't think many people pay attention to either, is bringing in somebody who's an actual A player who can actually replace you and can actually watch over the project while it's going on. And so you don't have to be there. All you have to do is you can show up, check in a couple of times a day, but you're meeting with new potential buyers. You're closing new deals. You're pushing new revenue into the business. You're actually paying attention to the highest revenue and the highest ROI activities that you can be doing on a day-to-day basis. So that one gets overlooked a lot as well. So if you take anything out of this video, it should obviously be the financial side of things, and then really just thinking like a CEO. Don't outspend yourself. Don't outspend your scalability, I guess is one way to put it. And don't get caught up working inside the business. Obviously, everybody wants to run their own business. It's this sexy thing that goes on in everybody's mind. And I'm sure it went on in your mind one day. It definitely went on in mine as well. But you want to make sure you're working on the right things day in and day out. Don't get caught working inside the business. Work on the business. That's very important to keep in mind. So if you like what you saw here, hit the subscribe button and turn the post notifications on, because we'll be uploading pretty regularly. See you in the next one.